From the John Matuzak Studios in Los Angeles, California, these are the songs we sing.
Ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 ba.
Welcome to the Songs We Sing. I'm Mike Henry, filling in for Greg Heller. Greg is in Nome, Alaska, at that city's annual Skank on the Tundra Ska Festival. My guest today is legendary British singer-songwriter Noel Lankershim, whose prestigious career spans nearly 5 decades, from his earliest days strumming skiffle at his father's apothecary, to his recent stint in supergroup The Falklands, playing alongside members of Asia, The Firm, The Power Station, and Coverdale Page. But if there's one song that has defined Lankershim's stardom, it's the song we'll be discussing today. The song celebrated rock critic Greil Marcus called An Otherworldly Intersection of Folk and Cosmic Erotica. That song is Psychedelic Johnson. And with me now to discuss it is Noel Lankershim. Noel, what a pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you. It's funny how one day you pen down a little song, and here we are now, all these years later. As luck would have it. It's fate and chance, I suppose.
As I understand it, Noel, you wrote that song in 1967 in North London.
Yes, indeed, at number 6 Totford Court, which is in Hertfordshire on Tyne, just off the Bakerloo line near Brondesbury Park in Edgware.
Yeah, I'm not an idiot. I know where it is. But what was London like at the time?
Well, it was, as you'd imagine, quite out there. These were the times, I suppose. People were sort of exploring various mind states, touring the inner cosmos, if you will. It was a parsimonious existence, insouciant but almost clandestine in its virtuosity. And, here we are now. All these years later, fate and chance, I suppose.
Yeah, I see. So much has been written about Psychedelic Johnson, and its origins have been debated for years. But what is the true story behind the song?
Well, at the time I had quite a motley gang of miscreants as cohorts. Most of the lads in Yes, the Fairport Convention, King Crimson, Molly Hatchet, a pre-mechanics Mike Rutherford, Dire Straits, Arthur Straits, his brother, Lord Paisley Pants, the Salmon of Blackpool, Pudding for Supper, Lemon Julius, several men from the Isle of Man, Puffy Nipples Esquire, Dame Roger Gobsworth, Leon Spinks, Brian Dennehy, and a rather large gentleman whose name I can't recall. And here we are now, all these years later. It's fate and chance.
I see. Back to my original question, what inspired it?
Well, I'd gotten a call from the great Ginger Baker, who asked me to come round his flat at number 9 Thamesford Court, which was near West Finchley off the Hammersmith line at Eggenham Bridge in Whitechapel.
Yeah.
Right. So I went round his flat, and he says to me, "Noel, have you heard of lysergic acid diethylamide?" At the time I had not, so I said as such. And he said, "Well, just a small drop would induce an altered state of consciousness for 5 to 6 hours." Now, 5 to 6 hours seems almost trite, doesn't it? So I asked if instead of a few drops, I might instead have myself a pint of this lysergic acid diethylamide, which Ginger did in fact provide for me. Of course, I had no idea how it would affect me, specifically how it would affect my genitals.
And how did it affect your genital?
Well, as it turns out, for a very small portion of people, lysergic acid diethylamide doubles as both psychoactive and a vasodilator, meaning it opens certain areas to increased blood flow. In my instance, that area was my John Thomas. But due to the quantity I had ingested, this state of arousal was destined to last quite some time.
How long, more or less?
Well, it persists even now.
I'm afraid I don't understand. You've had an erection since 1967?
Indeed. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
In any event, so many songs in the day had documented the mental aspect of the psychedelic experience, and while I certainly came to know that aspect with an almost capricious hegemony, my personal trip was defined by what I suppose you would call an unstoppable erection. I mean, no amount of squeezing or otherwise milking my willy was of any use. There was almost a nefarious recalcitrance about it. But to some regard, the song itself, writing it, performing it, has been my therapy. And here we are now, all these years later, as fate would have it, by chance.
Well, Noel, would you please do us the honor?
Oh, I suppose I can try.
Here now, exclusively for the songs we sing, is Noel Lankershim performing his classic, Psychedelic Johnson.
Just a drop you need, he said, a microgram to feed your head. But at the time, I didn't know the way it made my organ grow. Now I know what rainbows mean. In fact, there's one inside my jeans. It's swelling as I reach the peak, it's curving like a toucan's beak. Now I see colors in the sky, and as those colors deepen, I'm aware my member is engorged, and I see trails in the night, and as those trails widen, I surmise John Thomas will arise. My psychedelic Johnson is aroused, and yes, I open my third eye, and wisdom is in great supply. But oh, I paid a woeful tax, this priapism in my slacks, and I see colors in the sky, and as those colors deepen, I'm aware my phallus is inflamed, and I see figures on the moon, and as those figures melt, I comprehend this boner never ends. This psychedelic Johnson is aroused. My psychedelic Johnson is aroused.
What an honor it is to have you perform that for us today.
You're quite welcome.
Our guest this week has been Noel Lankershim. For the songs we sing, I'm Mike Henry.
Ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba ba.
So, is it uncomfortable?
Yeah, you get used to it. It's quite a conversation piece,
Oh,
really.
I imagine.